are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
I am Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool, and we are Locked On Cowboys. We are reviewing the Cowboys All 22 notes, or our notes from their week. Was it 11 loss against the Chiefs? I don't know, Landon. I'm all confused. It's a crazy time of the year. We've got so many games that are going on. But how are you doing today, sir?
Good. It's you're reviewing the last game. You're prepping for the very soon to come upcoming game. And then it also feels like just that there's another game going on constantly during this week. It's constant. It happens very fast. If you're covering the team, you have to deal with this kind of turnaround, and it makes you even further feel for the players that have to play on this kind of schedule, which is absolutely ridiculous.
All right, so we both watched the All 22 film from Week 11, and my first question for you is, Landon, did you feel better or worse about the Cowboys' performance in that game once you watched the tape? Or did you feel better or worse about them going forward?
I think I feel better about them going forward still. I think that my initial thoughts about how I felt about the defense moving forward are, I think I mostly confirmed. It felt like the defense played pretty well. They were rallying to the ball. They had solutions. They were tackling well. There's some exceptions, but I thought that they were able to get pressure on Mahomes, and it wasn't just Parsons. They were getting some of the guys. Armstrong was getting loose. They did some cool formational stuff that they always do, and they were able to get some advantages there. They definitely had like an uptick like we thought about in shell coverages. But the offense, really, I went back and watched the offense. We didn't get a ton of time because obviously the quick turnaround. So I tried to focus mostly on the offensive line. And I feel like the left side of the offensive line was better in some ways than I expected and worse in some ways than I expected. So, it was very kind of affirming on the defensive side. On the offensive side, it was just a little bit more confusing as to the issues that you were seeing with the blocking continuity specifically.
All right. I'll just give you my quick thoughts. I'm actually a little bit worried about the offense because this is twice where we've seen basically a defense just line everybody line up within like 7 yards of the line of scrimmage. And it's like, hey, protect and beat us deep. And if you can beat us deep, that's fine. We're going to live with it. But the Cowboys just haven't. And I don't know if it's because they lack speed, right? I don't know. They didn't have anybody, obviously, in this game that could beat one-on-one coverage. But I do worry a little bit like that's going to be the game plan going forward. Is you're going to see a lot of stack boxes, daring you to run into 8 and 9-man boxes and daring you to throw the ball deep. I don't know, Landon, if that's something they're going to be able to fix right away.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the game plan for Kansas City was kind of buoyed by the fact that their defense played really well and the fact that the Cowboys couldn't pull it together at key moments. I mean, I don't know that this is a fatal flaw. I mean, look, they were talking about fatal flaws schematically for this team 2 weeks ago, and they run basically the exact opposite of what the scheme was that we saw 2 weeks ago. So
I'm just more worried about beating the blitz because it's something they haven't really done well over the last couple of weeks.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like Dak has been one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz for most of the season. I think the problem is that all of his answers were taken away here. I mean, it's like what we talked about. You take away the guys that can beat the one-on-one coverage that exploit those kind of blitzes. You take away the continuity on the offensive line to be able to scheme up and block up a lot of these things. I think what really caused problems more than anything, it seems like, was not so much the kind of pressures that he was bringing, right? The kind of late trigger pressures from like the second and third level where they send 5 and then they send a 6 guy late and they didn't have anything to account for, and no one was open. So Dak was holding onto the ball and then, eventually would get buried by stuff. So I don't know if I'm worried about it long-term, especially as you get Cooper and Lamb back. And then,
I'm worried about it this week.
Yeah, potentially we could worry about this week. But I mean, honestly, I don't know that's going to be the game plan. I mean, you would know better than I do, but I don't know if that would be the game plan for Oakland, just simply because they have 2 good pass rushers on the end. Why would they feel the need to send 5 or 6 guys when they may be able to get pressure, depending on the health of Tyron Smith, with 4 guys up front? So
the reason why they might do it is because their safeties and linebackers can't cover. So might as well blitz them, right?
yeah,
And they feel really good about their corners. I mean, Casey Hayward and Nate Hobbs have both been really good. So why not just send all those guys up the middle and force Prescott to either take steps back into the pass rushing lanes of Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue, or just get the ball out quick? And they've got some guys that really tackle well. So I am just a little bit nervous that it's going to be an issue over the next couple of weeks until they get Amari Cooper back, until they get CeeDee Lamb back, who might play this week, but we'll see.
yeah. I mean, CeeDee Lamb playing this week seems. I don't understand how they pass the protocol for Thursday. Like I don't know that that's physically possible. But then again, I'm as far as I know, the NFL, the New York can't call down to change a ruling on whether a flag should have been thrown on a play, and we saw it happen anyway. So I guess rules don't really mean anything in the NFL.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, to go back to what you're saying, absolutely. I think if we're talking about the short, long term, like until you get your guys back, the Cowboys could have some issues. Beating the blitz without Cooper, without Lamb, without a good blocking scheme. And again, I think that they probably would have beaten a lot of those blitzes if Wilson catches the ball, Brown catches the ball. There was a lot of drops on key third downs, it feels like, in that game that kind of really hurt this team.
I do want to mention the thing you brought up about using replay to fix a bad call. So Terry McCullough, I believe is how you say his name. He is the official expert for NBC or for Fox, I believe now. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Fox.
That whole scene was hilarious. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. So I just want to mention this because of how crazy it is. So this didn't really change the game. It's not a big deal, but it just shows you what's going on in the NFL right now. So
exactly,
that's the play where was it CJ Goodwin grabbed the face mask of Fenton and it started this big thing. They didn't call a face mask on the field, which it was. There's absolutely no doubt that it was. Until about 3 minutes later when New York buzzed down and said, hey, that's a face mask, right? Yeah. Except for they're not supposed to do that.
Well, the funniest part was that while they were saying it, basically threw the flag on Fenton. They were showing the replay live on TV, right? And that you see clearly CJ's Goodwin's pulling the dude's face mask. Absolutely. Like, we are not arguing that. But what's hilarious is while they're sitting there going, they're like, is there any way that they could change this? And Terry, who is the former ex-referee, who's the NFL officiating expert for NBC or Fox or whatever, was like, oh, there's no mechanism for this. There's no way for them to do this. And then the next thing that happens is that, correction, we saw the replay or something and offsetting penalties. It was just the process. That, again, the penalty happened, but the whole process is just, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the NFL.
I quote tweeted him, and he actually sent me a DM and basically said, it's only ever happened one time in NFL history where the officials from New York buzzed down to, or the guys in New York buzzed down to the officials to make a call that they're not allowed to make. And it was in the Super Bowl between the Eagles and Patriots on a couple holding calls that they missed. And I asked, was it allowed? And he said no, but they can kind of make it up whenever they want to. So there you go. Whenever you get upset about the officiating, just remember the NFL does what it wants.
It's a shell game. Any rules, whether it's on the field, off the field, for anything with the NFL, it's all a shell game and it's all laughable. So anytime they come out with authority or that, with any, it's totally okay to laugh in their face because the NFL as a league they
do what they want.
Yeah.
They do what they want. All right, let's transition over to the defense. We talked about the offense enough. Donovan Wilson, I thought he played a really good game, but he's going to be out this week. It seems like with a chest or pectoral injury. Cowboys ruled him out pretty quickly, so you wonder what's going on there. How big of a loss to their defense is not having Donovan Wilson?
I mean, I think he played really well. Obviously, the Cowboys were able to get by without him for a couple of weeks, and the good news is that again, you still have three other safeties who are playing good football. I thought Malik Cooker had another good game, when he's in there. So I think you're going to miss him because I think he's a playmaker on this defense without a doubt. But I think that the good news there is that you do have some depth there. You do have some guys that you can bring in and can give you good snaps. It's not going to be like a huge drop off. There's going to be some playmaking drop off for sure, but I don't think there's going to be a huge letdown on the kind of floor of where the safeties can play because Wilson's hurt.
Yeah, I mean they can use more of KZ. They can use more of Malik Hooker, who's played quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. It hurts because Wilson, I think, is their most complete safety, but I think they'll be okay. It hurts really in a game where you're going to be using where the Raiders use a ton of guys in the middle of the field, but they're Waller and Foster Moreau and Hunter Renfrow. That's where you're going to really miss him. Micah Parsons, we should mention him. We did not mention him on our Sunday night show. How do you think he performed at edge in this game?
What's there to mention? I mean, did he play or something?
Yeah.
I mean, he was not amazing. Like, I can't get over how developed of a pass rusher he is for not having done this since high school. It's totally crazy. Like the way, you and I were talking to John Owning about this, about the way, like on his third step, he can get his toe pointed all the way towards the quarterback and just turn that corner. I mean, it looks like he's breaking his own ankles. He's bending so much. And the hand usage. I mean, he is just exposing offensive tackles with his hand usage. That is like, I mean, that's something that's so usually developed over a series of seasons by veteran pass rushers. I think somebody pointed out today that he has more sacks than, DeMarcus Ware, obviously, when he came in his rookie year, but he has more sacks and tackles than Chase Young did last year. So
he's got more sacks and tackles than Chase Young has in his career.
That's right. I'm sorry. So, I mean, it's incredible. I think we talked about how we felt like this was a role that he could play in. It could give you some snaps there and kind of alleviate, some of the loss of Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, I'm at the point now where I wonder who is the better pass rusher, Randy Gregory or Micah Parsons, because he's so good already without really having practiced the position for any significant amount of time.
The answer is you want both, right? Because
no, definitely. I'm not trying to get rid of either, but it's crazy that we got another Randy Gregory just kind of randomly. As well as the difference is,
man, when you have Gregory on that one side, then you can put Parsons over a guard, and he can do basically the same things. That's when you can do a lot of crazy things with your pass rush. But I know it is pretty cool that he's playing this well at edge. And I think this is another game against the Raiders where I think you're going to want him on the edge. Brandon Parker is the right tackle. I think he's the worst starting right tackle in the NFL.
Wow.
Should be a big day for Parsons, assuming the Cowboys can cover long enough to give him some chances to hit Derek Carr, but should be another big day for him. How did you think the rest of the defensive line played outside of Parsons?
I thought the defensive line, for the most part, played pretty well. I mean, considering who's playing at this point and the depth that you have, they're missing guys at this point. I mean, obviously we've known about Lawrence.
Starting unit, right? When you think of DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory, Neville Gallimore, and Brent Urban, an entire starting unit.
The entire starting line's gone. And what you got out of guys like Dorrance Armstrong, did you go back and watch that sack? He was a man possessed. He's jumping over two guys to get into to Mahomes.
He's actually developed into a really nice third defensive end. It's just too bad he hasn't been in that role at all this year.
Yeah, I know. It's that, right? Exactly. That's the problem. He's been forced into being the guy. But I mean, you've already got a really nice third pass rusher with Micah Parsons, but suddenly, Dorrance Armstrong decides to hit as well. And I mean, that's why I can't wait to see what exactly this defensive line is going to look like when you get your full complement of guys.
If we get it back,
you could have a pass rushing quadrant of Lawrence, Gregory, Parsons, and then maybe you kick in Armstrong as the other defensive tackle, and that's a real NASCAR package if you want to zoom, man. I just can't get over a team that we had real heavy concerns about how they were going to get the pass rush this year, even with Gregory and without Gregory, without Lawrence, these guys have been managing to week after week provide pressure. It's just really impressive.
So it sounds like the Cowboys are going to activate Lawrence off the injured reserve list soon. Not necessarily this week, but would you give him at least one more week to get ready?
I think the Saints game is a great target. I think it's been the target for a long time, to be honest. I think, we had hoped that there would be a Thanksgiving just simply for the puns. But I think that, like you let him get through Thanksgiving. Then he's got 10 days, right? And like that way.
No, 7 days.
I'm sorry, 7 days. 7 days. Get the week because it's
but then you have 10 days
game.
afterwards. So maybe that's the plan. Is you give him 20 snaps in that Thursday game against the Saints. Let his body kind of heal up, take the weekend off, and then back to practice on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, and I think that gives him, the kind of space to get out there, test the foot, and then long recovery time to make sure that, because again, they have to be really careful with this injury. I mean, not to kind of go over history the Cowboys fans don't want to talk about, but the Jones fracture, is one that you can come back from it in a season without any problems. But if you don't let it heal long enough, it is certain to break, and if break again. And then once it does that, now you're looking at an even longer recovery time.
You're looking at like a 6 to 8 month recovery time at that point. So
so
that's why
they
you need to be so careful about it.
Exactly. They can't afford that. So, and to be fair, I think that they have been very, they're on the upper end of the projection of the injury, right? Like I think they're closer to 10 weeks than they are to 8 weeks off of this injury, if I'm not mistaken, especially by the time he's potentially going to be stepping onto the field. So that's, I think that they're being smart, and the benefit of winning, right, is that you don't have to rush a DeMarcus Lawrence back. You don't have to worry about what would you say?
We're on week 11 of the injury right now.
Yeah, see, exactly. So he's on he's past the danger zone, I would say, or at least the assumed danger zone. He's obviously not out of the clear. So, but I think
assuming he comes back next week, that'd be 12 full weeks that he would be basically not playing on it.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, they tried to get Dez back in like
6 weeks,
not 6 or 7 weeks. It was like it was. I mean, 8 to 10 was the recommended, and he came back 2 weeks ahead of that. That was a mistake.
It was 6 weeks, and it was a mistake. I actually think it might have ruined Dez's career because he came back too quick, and then he got hurt again, and then he had to have the surgery,
and then he just had
really same.
Yeah, lower body chain of injuries that kind of just, compensating for one side or the other. And you just got to be careful with lower body, foot, joint injuries. Just give those guys the time, even with the big players that you need back. Like if you want them for the long term, you just have to be careful with them.
Do you want to address Trevon Diggs in the run game in this one at all, or no?
Look, that one play was terrible. I actually think that. I mean, I don't think that was a business decision. I think that was a him being myopic about coverage.
I will say, though, I'm a little worried that we're going to start seeing teams just throw more screens to him on that side of the ball, because there was one where the Chiefs, I think they designed it this way. They blocked it up where it was basically Tyreek Hill and Trevon Diggs one-on-one in space, and Diggs never touched him.
Well, I mean, that's Tyreek Hill.
I think it's part Tyreek Hill, it's part Diggs just isn't a tackler. He's just not.
I disagree. I think Diggs is a good tackler. I just think he, in the run game, and even in the run game, he's not afraid to sacrifice himself. I think he didn't play his assignment well. He didn't keep contained there. Okay. I don't disagree that I think teams are going to try that. I just don't know that they're going to have as much success with anybody that isn't Tyreek Hill.
Okay, we'll see. Maybe this week. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders try that. With Hunter Renfrow, with Brian Edwards, so we shall see. All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about BetOnline. It remains your number one spot for all the sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with promo code LOCKEDON. And it's not just football. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, and even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, we're stuffed with deals this Thanksgiving. All right, Landon. This is actually our last show together before the Cowboys take on the Raiders. So let's just do a quick preview. What are you expecting in this game?
Honestly, I was hoping to get you to tell me because only one of us covers the Raiders professionally. So I'll give you my thoughts on what the Cowboys are going to do, and I'd love to hear what you think the Raiders are going. I'm really fascinated to see whether CeeDee Lamb plays or not. I mean, by all intents and by the letter of the law, he shouldn't play. I mean, the concussions. I care about the person. Yeah. And so I don't want to see him play necessarily because that's scary to me. And I think as you pointed out, I mean, not to bring this up, but he has 3 concussions already, right?
Yep.
This is not good. They shouldn't be rushing him back to play. Having said that, if he does play, the Cowboys do have somebody that can help them kind of beat a lot of the one-on-one situations. I do think their Cowboys are in a little bit better spot than they were going into Kansas City, simply because they'll know who they have at wide receiver throughout the week and can game plan accordingly, right? So I'm hoping that they have a little bit better of a game plan. I do think that one thing we didn't mention, I thought Dalton Schultz had a pretty good game. He was one of the few players that actually had a good game on offense. So maybe look for a little bit more of a focus on Schultz, just because he's a guy that you can rely on. I don't know if you want to, have him running wheel routes and throwing the ball down the field like they did at one point in the game on versus Kansas City. But I think, Wilson knows that he needs a bounce back game. Brown as well. They know going in that they're going to get an uptick in snaps as opposed to having it dropped on them last minute because of the situation with Cooper. I'd like to see Malik Turner also get in some opportunities out there because I think we've seen him do things in games as well. So for the Cowboys, I'm just hoping that going into the game with a little bit clearer eyes of what the game plan is and who's playing, hopefully will produce better results. What are the state of the Raiders at this point? I mean, they're coming off a tough loss too, and dealing with
the last 3 games, they're averaging 14 points per game. Since Henry Ruggs was released, this offense just isn't dynamic at all. But what they can do is they can just kind of nickel and dime you all the way down the field. So that's interesting, right? Darren Waller's still an absolute beast. So if the Cowboys don't have a plan to stop him, they're going to be in trouble. Renfrow is a really good slot receiver. The way that you beat the Raiders is they've got the worst offensive line in football. I'm absolutely convinced of it. The center's terrible. The left guard, actually, John Simpson was not playing well. He might not be even able to go in this one because of rib injury. Alex Leatherwood was such a disaster at right tackle that they moved him to right guard. He's been a little bit better there, but then they had to put Brandon Parker at right tackle, who's somehow worse. If you can beat them up front with the offensive line, you're going to stop the offense. That's basically it. They just don't have the explosiveness to beat you down the field, except for they signed Deshaun Jackson, which inevitably means that we're going to get an 80-yard touchdown to Deshaun Jackson at some point in this game. We even had it last year with the Eagles. Remember, first play, it was week 16, Deshaun Jackson had an 80-yard touchdown. So it's defense is really the more interesting thing here. Max Crosby, Yannick Ngakoue are incredible. I think it's the best edge rushing duo in football. Those guys are really good. Even a healthy Tyron Smith might struggle with Ngakoue because he's so fast and he's so good at where you can beat them is the defensive tackle spot.
Yeah.
They're really, really light there. They play Solomon Thomas, who you probably remember from the 49ers. Yep. He's 280 pounds. He's their 3 technique. They play Quentin Jefferson, who's 285. Yeah. He's their 1 technique. It's Rob Marinelli coaching this defensive line. So you know exactly what to expect. The goal for the Cowboys should be in this game. Linebackers, safeties. Target those guys every single snap because Nate Hobbs and Casey Hayward are really good. Jonathan Abram is not. Find him and you're going to be just fine. That's basically all you have to do against this defense.
Yeah, and I think, that lines up. The Cowboys, clearly, they're going to want to run the football. I mean, they just on a short week, they want to get things back, kind of stable. Depending on whether Tyron Smith plays or not, even if he does play, he's still going to be coming off of a couple weeks of injury. And with Connor McGovern, I assuming still starting at left guard, you're still going to want to get those guys comfortable and getting them comfortable means moving them forward and attacking, being aggressive, and that means running the football. So that lines up. And I think one of the better ways to keep Ngakoue and Crosby at bay is to run at them. Is to kind of.
Yes.
I mean, they are incredible pass rushers. You said it, probably the best duo in football. But neither one are as good as run players. So make them do what they do.
And their interior defensive line is not played well lately, and their linebackers are not very good. They're really relying a lot on KJ Wright and Denzel Perryman to be their two linebackers. It's not great. So running on them is how you beat them. Joe Mixon ran for 130 yards last week. That's really how you beat this team. And then they make a ton of mistakes. I mean, they lead the NFL in penalty yards right now. They're just not a very well coached team. So just don't make the big mistake, and I think you can beat them. But they're still really talented. They've got some guys at some really important positions that can play well.
Yeah, the Cowboys need to play a cleaner game. I mean, I think it was penalties and that sort of thing wasn't really what killed them versus Kansas City. But I think just going in with a clearer game plan with the players that you've practiced that game plan through with all the week, I think will hopefully give them the advantage. Oh, it's crazy to say that because this is actually the game you would expect the opposite, right? Yep. Like that because of the short week, it's harder to prepare. It's harder to get your team comfortable with the game plan. When the opposite happened last week, they got their team comfortable with the game plan, and then two key players that they had incorporated into the game plan didn't get to play last minute, and they didn't get to practice with the backup. Yep. So this week, at least those guys got practice at the spots they're going to play. I do think, like we talked about, there is a path to victory that is something the Cowboys can do by running the football, and that'll help keep the ball away from Oakland's offense. I mean, Vegas' offense. But I do agree. Like, I think you can't just let Carr pick this team apart. He's
incredibly.
He's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. The Cowboys fans, we don't get to watch the Raiders a lot.
Yep.
Right. But I think I get to watch their Twitter account through osmosis because I follow you. So, I mean, I can tell you that just like, having watched, but I've watched some Vegas games this year, and Carr is a good quarterback.
He's a good quarterback. Yeah.
He's right on that Matt Ryan line, right? Of he can beat you he can have games where he beats you by himself, and then he can have games where he'll beat himself. So I think the Cowboys need to find a way to stabilize this matchup, lean on their talent. And I think the best way to do that at this point is to kind of switch to a not run first, but just leaning on the run to stabilize the offense. And then kind of building the passing game off of that, as opposed to kind of the opposite, which is kind of what they do at different times, depending on the opponent.
And find number 24 in coverage. I promise you, the Cowboys just isolate Jonathan Abram. They will be perfectly fine on offense in this game. He is
big Schultz game.
It should be a Dalton Schultz game, and it should be a Tony Pollard game because the linebackers are really, really slow. So if you can get to the next level, you can turn a lot of those runs into big games. So we'll see. Do you want to give a prediction for this one?
I think the Cowboys are pissed, and they find a way to take it out on Vegas. I think the Cowboys are a more talented team. Short week playing at home is an advantage against a team that doesn't play a lot of Thursday night games. I imagine certainly hasn't played a Thanksgiving game in a while. Cowboys have all the small advantages that Kansas City had going into those games, right? All the tiny, like, well, you don't have Cooper. Well, you don't have Smith. Well, you're playing in Kansas City. This week, those kind of fall more on the Cowboys side. And I think the Cowboys are the more talented team. I'm looking for them to take care of business here. They need to they can't just keep bleeding losses here, even though they've started out so hot. They need to get a win, if only just to stave off things for a week, allow your guy. You're getting a lot of guys healthy this week, hopefully, that are coming in for the Saints game, which is going to be an important game. But getting a win here would really kind of set things straight and really make you feel a lot more confident going into this final stretch of games.
I will say this about the Raiders. They are a really good first quarter team. Like their game script coming in, like the first drive is always really well done. They're always really fired up on defense, but they're just a team. If they get behind by 10 points, I don't know if they have that killer instinct in them to kind of come back and fight their way through it. It's been a really rough season for them in so many different ways this year. If you get up 10 points, 14 points, I think they might roll over a little bit, considering they're on a 3-game losing streak. But if you let them hang around,
Yeah.
that's when they can be a problem. So just kind of keep an eye on that. Because I cover the Raiders, I'm not going to pick this game, Landon. I'm just not.
That's fair. Just quietly to yourself pick them and see, look, I saw. Did you guys see that? He said it, so it counts. It's on record.
All right, so crossover show coming up on Wednesday. That's a lot of fun. Make sure you guys are listening to that. Landon and I will be back at some point this weekend to talk about the Thursday night game. We're still working on that. We'll figure it out depending on how it goes and how full we are after Thanksgiving. So enjoy the holiday, everybody. Enjoy the game, and we will see you guys next time.
Happy Thanksgiving.